Hey, this is Derek and Jeremy here with the Abolition Men, and we're really excited to be starting our first web series called "The Myths" or "Debunking the Myths of Demand." And we're really excited about this because obviously, if you don't know Abolition Men, we exist to end the demand for commercial sex so that we can end sex trafficking. And being an organization that's working to combat demand, we come across a lot of different types of beliefs that people have about this. And Jeremy, as I know you're aware, there's a lot of like general ideas and beliefs that people have that have been around for a long time. And I feel like I've been interacting with these my whole life, but now as I'm like in this work, it becomes clear to me that, man, we haven't really thought really deep about demand in a long time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we don't put a lot of thought into it, and we take a lot of what people say and what we hear and what we've been raised with is just truth.
Yeah.
You know, this is the truth that we build into our lives, and we don't question it or think about, hey, maybe what somebody's told me isn't true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's funny how, yeah, I've heard these things and just go, oh yeah, you know what? Yeah, you know, it's like, it sounds true on the surface. So
right.
we just like go with it. And it's like, you know, we don't want to be controversial or
Yeah, we don't want to step on anybody's toes or be like, hey, maybe you think about what you're saying. I feel like I remember a story with you with the football or something. I kept saying to you, do you hear what you're saying?
Yeah.
I think that's the only time I really remember you ever yelling at me. But
yeah, that's right. You're challenging my belief on something that I wasn't thinking deeply about. Yeah. So it's interesting. We, you know, really, we can almost categorize these three dominant beliefs as one. There's this belief that ending the demand is impossible. That's what we're going to be talking about over the next couple weeks, and kind of debunking that myth. This idea that, you know, it's just impossible to end. You know, it's been around forever, and there's no way that we can ever hope to end it. The second one is that it's just a natural part of who guys are. You know, that's an interesting myth, you know, that they, you know, us guys can't help it. You know, it's just, it's in our
give us our club and send us out, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's an interesting story I have when we get to that topic, but that's for another episode altogether. And then the last one is that it's harmless form of entertainment. You know, that demand, it's like, should we even care about it? It's just, yeah, you know, you might not agree with what people are doing, but it's not really hurting anybody. So it's just there, and let's all just like move on with our life. So
right.
Those three kind of seem to be the dominant myths about this. And I think it just became clear to us that, you know what, we haven't really had a good, deep conversation about demand in our society, probably in a long time. I think at least what we would like to do is begin to start conversations with people, and let's start thinking about this a little bit more deeper than just the slogans that we throw around, you know? But what are some of the ways that people express this idea that ending the demand is impossible?
I mean, I think a lot of people just think that there's nothing you can do about it. This is just, they don't really think about how we've gotten to this point. They think, you know, hey, we're bored, we come out, guys just want to take advantage of women. They just want to pay for sex. They want to go to a strip club. It's just kind of an assumed by people that this is how things are done. And we don't take the time to say, okay, how did we get to that point? You know, because when I was a kid, I didn't know anything about any of those things.
Right.
And so what kind of led me to that? What kind of made that an option in my life as a man? You know, who put that there? And when we start diving into that question and looking at that question, it really opens your eyes and becomes very disconcerting when you look how it got there, because it really isn't natural. It really is a trained behavior as men that we've been trained to do. And, you know, I don't want to go too deep into some of these things, but as we go through this, if we don't look at it that way, if we don't say, hey, I've been trained, I've been groomed to think this way, then I'm not going to be able to overcome it, because I'm just going to throw like, oh, let me say a prayer about this and hopefully it'll go away. Let me, go to one conference about it and maybe it'll go away. No, if I've been trained to do it, I've got to untrain myself.
Oh man, yeah. Preach, brother. That is so true. And is very powerful. For us, if we can just pull the lens out a little bit and look at the big picture, and see that this isn't just random behavior, but
Right.
how have we, as you said, been groomed and been led to this type of behavior, and then how it's like become normalized and stuff.
Yeah.
For me, it's interesting in launching Abolition Men. One of the dominant ways I was hearing people say that ending the demand was impossible was actually a very polite way. People were being very polite, but it was like, kind of like the statements like, wow, that's a big one, like, that's
Right.
a big issue there. And, and whoa, okay, I don't know. Ooh, so part of that, of course, is people don't know how to initially respond to the issue, like
Right.
it's not a common thing to hear someone say, hey, I'm, focused on wanting to end the demand. But I think there was an underlying belief behind that was this general understanding that, it's impossible. And,
Right.
it's kind of like heroic that you want to try to do that, but impossible. And then, of course, the dominant one is prostitution is the oldest profession in the world.
Right.
And it's amazing how often I still hear that today from people, not too long. I think it was a couple months ago in an email with someone, and we were talking about this issue, and that was the main belief of that person, that, hey, but you're never going to be able to end it because prostitution is the oldest profession in the world.
Right. So how do we debunk that one, Derek? I mean, what are we talking about? So if you're a believer, you probably gardener is the oldest profession in the world. If you're not believer, I don't know exactly where you think things started, but it probably was more, cultivating or doing something with the land and trying to get food and just exist.
Yes.
So I don't know where this myth even comes from.
It is
like
so interesting. And it's important to hear the people the main people who are using it,
Yeah.
And you, or at least the point of it is almost like a defensive type thing, that, it's coming from people who are wanting to defend the behavior or the action, not as like, it's not, no one read a scientific research, thing and said, I've come to this conclusion that prostitution is the oldest profession. It's usually said, kind of like defending the behavior, which is really interesting. So yeah, there is no, but I like that, Jeremy. There is no scientific research or study that's been done that we're basing that belief on.
Right.
It really is just something that I think it's like we've become a little bit lazy in talking about this issue. Like, so to me, that's like a lazy argument.
Yeah. I also think it's interesting that when we look at words, when people use this, and they throw that out, prostitution is the oldest profession. That word profession is, it changes the whole dynamic of that thing. So it legitimizes it.
Yeah.
Hey, you're an accountant, you're a lawyer, you're a prostitute. I mean, there's classes for it in college, right? So, I mean, it's just, we use words in a way to minimize things, like you were just saying. It takes the focus off what exactly is happening.
Oh man, yeah, that is so true. And that word definitely does that. It makes it seem, and that's where kind of the harmless part of it comes in too. Like, oh yeah, it's a profession. And so what it kind of gives people permission to do is to not think any deeper, not to go any deeper into this. Just, oh yeah, it's been around forever and it's a profession. So, okay, we can all move on with our lives and live happily ever after,
Right.
Until we say, well, wait a second, let's, is that true? And where did we get this belief? Where did we get the belief that ending the demand is impossible? And And then I'm really interested in how that kind of dominant cultural belief, then what it does is it kind of leads to inactivity.
Right.
Which is, so it kind of becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy. We tell ourselves it's impossible to end, so then we don't try to do anything to end it, and
Right.
or it continues to go on. So I think breaking that myth is going to be like so important, you know, that we stop telling ourselves that ending the demand is impossible.
Yeah, if people don't think that it's something that's going to be done, can be done, then they're just not going to get on board. You're not going to be willing to take action because you're just like, well, I'm just wasting my time.
Yep.
And I think some of the problem with that is when you make it so big and so bold like that, you know, hey, it's the oldest profession in the world. This has just always existed. It's so overwhelming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I've got to go change this in the whole world.
Right.
You know, I got to fix the whole world. And it's, you know what? I mean, that's just not how this really works. That's not how any of our life works. We work in a way that we impact people that we do life with. You know, we impact people that we see. And, you know, you and I, we don't need to go. I mean, you know, you want to impact the whole world, but in all reality, we're going to impact a much smaller amount of people.
Yep.
And if we can impact, you know, 10 people, 100 people, whatever that is, then that's important.
Yes.
Because then they can impact 10 or 100 people. So I think that just making it feel like the whole world
right
is very, very discouraging when you're thinking, how do I combat this?
Yep. Yeah, that's so true. And not just like the people we interact with, but it also helps to even think like just our own family, you know, or how we raise our kids, you know, that becomes so much more motivating when, as you said, not trying to think about, all right, how do we change the whole world? Okay, don't worry about the world right now, you know.
Right.
How do you just like better influence your children, your family? How do you talk about it with your friends and coworkers? All of that. And I do think that is the way change happens. You know, change happens always on the micro level.
Right.
And so that's really exciting. And that's hopefully, you know, so what we're going to be doing in this series is talking about if we don't give into the cultural myth that it's impossible, and we want to think a little bit more deeper about it, what we want to talk about in the next couple episodes is what a holistic framework for ending the demand would look like. You know, because I know where we kind of, where you and I end up is that ending the demand is not impossible. It's a matter of our priorities. And if we prioritize this issue, if we care about it, if we put resources into combating it, then yeah, anything is possible, really. You know, like any issue is possible if we are focused on it, energized, and that we prioritize and value it. So for us, you know, we've kind of identified 4 initiatives, 4 strategies that we can put in place today and are already being put in place today that will help end the demand. And that's what we're going to be spending the next couple episodes talking about. So, Jeremy, what are those 4 initiatives?
Oh, man, I was told there'd be no tests, man. No, okay. I know the first one is awareness.
Yes.
And when I put this in the notes kind of when I was looking at things, but awareness, and we just need to speak up. You know, we need to, when we see something that makes us uncomfortable, when we see something that we just think is inappropriate, we need to speak up and help people be aware.
Yes.
There's a lot of people out there that, through really no fault of their own, how they've been raised, what they've taken in from culture, they're not aware. It's just normal to them. And we don't want to be judgmental. I mean, I was this person. I mean, it was last September that I was sitting there when you were talking. So it's not even that old. I like to think I'm better, but I'm really not. Yeah. So we just need to give people a chance to hear and learn and be, you know, part of this.
Yes. Yeah. Awareness and education, man. We can't end something that we don't even know is there or is a problem, you know, until we have open, honest conversations about it and help expose more people to, oh, this is why I should care about it. So yeah, awareness and education is critical. Intervention.
Yeah, intervention.
Intervention is powerful, and that there's a lot of buyers out there that actually feel trapped in their behavior, don't want to be doing it, feel like, again, they feel like it's impossible to overcome in their own personal life, you know?
Yeah.
They've kind of believed that lie that, man, this is just impossible. And yet at the same time, there's so many great intervention strategies and communities of people, and so many powerful stories too of people overcoming this issue. So intervention is a really important strategy in which we reduce the barriers to active buyers of commercial sex, and help them gain access to these resources that can really be life-saving to them, you know, and transformative, and also just sharing that message of hope and healing too, you know, that I think definitely for men, we need to hear that it's possible.
Yeah. Amen.
And we need to say that, hey, yeah, it's hard, and you know, definitely there's going to be failure, but freedom in this area of your life is really possible. So
yeah, we need to make that as part of the intervention. We just need to let men know that you don't have to do this on your own.
yes,
You know, I think that's where we live as men. Hey, you know, I'm going to stop this. I'm not going to click on this link tonight. I'm not going to do what this is, and then we fail again, and we just feel guilty. But we need to use, like you said, intervention strategies, which can be other men to help us, tools, and not just say, hey, I'm going to cold turkey this, because that just really doesn't work for a lot of people.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to go to the next one. Are you ready?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, I thought this was my test.
Yeah.
Accountability is the next one.
Yes.
That we're talking about. And when we're talking about accountability, it feels like the way we look at it right now is we're more interested in making the person that's being trafficked responsible, as opposed to making the people that are buying or trafficking being responsible. We need to change the way we look at this and realize that the people that are being prostituted or being exploited are not really doing this of their own will.
Yeah.
They are being forced into this, and we need to really understand who the real who the real people is that we need to try to stop to end the demand here. Yeah,
exactly. Yep. It's time for us as local communities, really, and then obviously nationally, but local communities, this is something for them to do, which is to hold buyers of prostituted people to a higher degree of accountability. You know, there's a long history, definitely in this country, but really all over the world, where the buyers were just getting off with a little slap on the hand, you know?
Right.
So we're basically communicating to buyers that, hey, this isn't, you know, a big deal for you, you know, like, we're not holding you responsible for this. It's going to be other people. And that just doesn't work, because it's, you know, then it's communicating that, like, I guess this isn't that big of a deal. And buyers have, one of the things that they have shared in research, you know, in the study that's being done on this topic, is that if we increase the risk and accountability to buying demand, that will reduce behavior. So that is something we can build off of, you know.
Right.
That's the third one. You got the last one?
Cultural change. Yes. So all of this, and really getting out to people, we're just hoping for cultural change. We're hoping for, when somebody says something that, you know, is inappropriate, somebody comes up to you and is like, hey, for the bachelor party, let's go to that strip club. That it's not like just like, oh, well, of course that's what we're going to do. We want the culture to be like, no, why would we do that? You know, we want to change the culture, the way the culture we react to this.
Yeah.
And so, you know, instead of prostitution being the oldest profession in the world, it'd be like, prostitution, man, that was something we did that was just, why did we let that happen?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, it's the oldest form of oppression.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
That kind of switch thinking. And yeah, you know, I think cultural change is right on. And one of the ways we do that, or will do that, is how we raise the next generation of kids.
That's big.
real cultural change will happen when we understand that how children are interacting with the commercial sex industry at younger and younger ages, mainly through pornography, and how that is like, as you said, how did we get here? On this conversation, and for us to see that, hey, boys and girls don't just wind up there by chance. That is something that's been groomed and has been a part of the culture that they've inhabited. So cultural change will happen when I think that's something that every adult can do too, which is exciting about that one, that, the accountability and intervention is obviously things geared towards active buyers.
Right.
And cultural change. So what can happen is that people go, well, I'm not an active buyer, so I have no responsibility in this.
Yeah, I'm not contributing in any way.
Yeah, I'm not contributing.
That's another myth we can talk about one of these weeks.
Yeah, exactly. Cultural change will help us see how we're all connected to this.
Right.
And what we all can do as adults, especially with children, to make sure that we're not passing on to these children the normalized beliefs and the socially acceptable kind of beliefs kind of thing. So yeah, those are the 4 initiatives. I know that for people right now, like if you're just listening to this now, that it doesn't sound like that much. Like, oh, those are the 4 things. Okay, great. That's why over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be going into each one of these initiatives, because really you'll see that this really is the way that we can significantly reduce demand, if not completely end it, is through these 4 things. For us at Abolition Men, we're excited to show that, because if we only do 1 or 2 of these, we're limiting ourselves and we won't have the impact that we want to have. I think it's really through all 4 of these initiatives that we can see just a much greater impact being had. So we're so excited for this web series. We definitely want to encourage you to be checking out our Facebook page as well as our YouTube channel. That's where we'll be posting these videos. And we encourage feedback. So definitely through our Facebook page.
Check out the community page on Facebook, the group, if you can. We're going to try to drop some more detailed conversations into that page when we get a chance.
And we're going to keep this conversation going. So we really look forward to engaging in this conversation. We hope it's helpful. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks.